Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a podcast by Practical E-Commerce.
What's going on, Internet? Eric Bandholz here, back again with another awesome Building an E-Commerce Business. I am sitting with Greg Mercer, the founder of Jungle Scout. If you are an Amazon person, you better have heard of Jungle Scout. If you hadn't, you're missing a lot of opportunities on the table. Why don't we go ahead? Greg, tell us a little bit about Jungle Scout, what you do, and how long you've been doing it.
Yeah, I founded Jungle Scout 5 years ago. At the time, I was selling physical products on Amazon. I was using the model of just importing goods from China, white labeling them, selling them on Amazon. And what I realized is some of my products were doing quite a bit better than others. And what it came down to is how much demand there were for these products on Amazon. And fast forward today, that seems pretty basic, or maybe always did, but back then it was actually really difficult to understand what products were selling well on Amazon and which weren't. Just the tools and the analytics stuff have come a long way since then. But I developed models to estimate how well all products on Amazon were selling. I personally use those just in a spreadsheet fashion. And then I was like, man, this is really labor intensive to fill out these spreadsheets with these models. It'd be cool if I could put this into a Chrome extension. So then I built a Chrome extension that you could just run on the Amazon page. And through this, I could then get an understanding of what was selling well on Amazon and what wasn't. And Jungle Scout was never supposed to be a software company. I just launched it as a little side fun project because I didn't know anything about software. I was like, man, if I could just make my money back in subscription fees of what it cost me to build this, that would be awesome. One thing led to another. Now we have 250,000 customers and 150 employees. And yeah, it was never supposed to be anything.
Yeah, I had never known of you before Jungle Scout, but I knew of Jungle Scout before meeting you, which is probably pretty cool as a creator of a brand. I remember a lot of my entrepreneurs are just like, yeah, you just get the Jungle Scout extension and tells you all this information. What are some of the metrics that Jungle Scout is giving users from a metric standpoint?
Yeah, so over the years, it's evolved a lot. And now Jungle Scout's really a tool to help you not only find new products, but then also manage your business and optimize your business. So it gets pretty in-depth or robust now. But the things that we're best known for is the ability to accurately estimate sales on Amazon. So through that, you could do product research or forecasting. Or monitor your competitors or different things like that. And then the other thing we're well known for is all the keyword search volume metrics on Amazon. So how often keywords are searched, what other similar keywords are related to that one or are commonly searched with it, different types of metrics around that.
Yeah, feel free to not share your secret sauce, but I assume all this information is public and you're somehow scraping Amazon for that, or are there APIs where you're able to tie in and get clean data? I don't even know how you find that information out.
Yeah, most of the data has to be crawled. Some of it does come through Amazon's APIs. And then where the secret sauce happens is we have a team of data scientists who are able to just use these mass amounts of data to pretty accurately come up with these predictions. So they just train these different models, they test it against known data, and through that we can estimate this either demand or search volume for all products.
Yeah, so you can look at all the products in the category, read all the reviews, see based on the number of reviews, there's probably 10 orders per review or something like that, and just kind of do some computational estimates for it.
Yeah, it's along those same lines. Amazon gives some better data than just number of reviews. They give something called the bestseller rank, which is really indicative of how well the product's selling. And then there's some other metadata on the page that's actually not exposed publicly, but is really helpful for our data scientists as well.
Yeah. From a business perspective, is Amazon going to block your crawlers, and is that a battle you're always facing?
I used to lose a lot of sleep over this, as you can imagine. And then just within the past few years, we really improved our relationship with Amazon. And one of the things that they told us was essentially just that since what we're doing is helping Amazon and helping Amazon sellers, it's helping people launch new products on Amazon. It's filling gaps in their catalogs. It's discovering what products are high margin. Maybe you could sell it for cheaper, which is driving down prices for customers, all these different types of things. So I think they looked at our business as a whole and it's like, okay, this is actually really beneficial for us because what you're doing is really helping Amazon sellers. So as a result, we'll just turn our heads to it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
As an owner, I would be very relieved with that kind of feedback from them. And it makes sense. I mean, you guys, I can't imagine if you want to sell on Amazon right now that you're not using your software, right? Do you get to get a little more feedback from your customers on what's working, what's not working based on the data? Or do you have any kind of insights as to opportunities on Amazon?
Yeah, I have a lot of insight. I'm an engineer by education, just like passionate about data. So I'm always digging into it, trying to figure out what's working, what's not. Also just talk to tons of customers. So, I mean, yeah, I think I have a pretty good understanding of both macro trends as well as just little tips and tricks.
Yeah. Are you seeing like a rise in number of sellers? Are you seeing kind of like peak Amazon selling time frame? I hear from other Amazon sellers that it's gotten so bloodbath like out there that it's really hard to be successful, or you have to essentially invest for a year before you see the returns. Are there still opportunities out there?
Yeah, I think there's definitely still opportunities. What you've heard about it just be kind of like a bloodbath. That is true in certain industries or certain types of products. But then where the opportunities are would be equivalent to like the Google long tail type keywords, right? Like once all of the most popular search stuff or most popular bot stuff gets really just saturated, that's what opens up the opportunities for these more long tail items. So like the macro trends that we're seeing are very just like commodity like products that are very popular, are super competitive, and actually I would say the majority of the best sellers for those are actually held by Chinese owners. So about half of sellers on Amazon now are from China, and they are very efficient at selling products at a like pretty low price. And it's pretty hard for other people from other regions, it seems like, to compete with them on these like very commodity like products. So I'm talking about like a spatula or like whatever, just these things that are very easy to create that don't really have any kind of like branding or aren't necessarily like hip or cool or anything like that. All those seem to be saturated. But then again, like I said, there's all these different niche type markets that are still opportunities.
Yeah. Do you see that area growing, or do you think there may be a concern with Amazon shoppers moving away from Amazon because it's just kind of brandless commodity products that the value's at?
Yeah, I don't foresee in the future customers moving away from Amazon. It's if we just look at the past decade, that's never been true. It just grows and grows and grows quarter after quarter. And I used to think is like, man, there has to be a point where it tops off, which there does have to be a point where it tops off. The reason that I don't think that's anywhere in our near future is if you look at e-commerce as a percentage of total retail sales, it's still only like 10, 12% looking at, depending on what source you're looking at. So it's like, man, if only 12% of retail sales are happening online, then it's like there's still a lot of room to go up there. My best guess is that Amazon's going to continue to grow for at least another decade. And then, I don't know, I'll come on the podcast again. We'll talk about it again.
Yeah. We'll hold you accountable to that, see if you're right or wrong. Where do you see Amazon going with their platform? Are there going to be any significant changes for sellers or opportunities or risk in getting on the platform?
I think they'll continue to have an open platform to allow anyone to sign up for it. General trends, again, just like the other big tech players, are you pretty much have to be using sponsor products and paying for ad placements in order to get your products in front of a lot of customers. As far as just other kind of general trends on there, where I see things going, I think like if we look at the data from the past like 5 years, the products that are selling well or being ranked well, like the star rating of the reviews has been getting higher and higher year over year. That is just like such a driver in Amazon shoppers' decision making, is what kind of reviews that it gets. And I believe that Amazon's weighting that more heavily in their ranking algorithms as well. So one thing, even if it is a really cheap commodity product, like it has to be getting pretty good reviews.
Yeah. Now, has Amazon really clamped down on the gray hat and black hat review system, or is a lot of people still manipulating that, making it hard to get authentic reviews?
I believe they've actually done a pretty dang good job at this. I don't believe that it's a rampant problem like it was. If you would have asked me a year ago, I would have said yes. That it's gotten a little bit out of control. Or I guess there was a few periods of it. One period was when you were allowed to incentivize people to leave reviews. So you were allowed to say like, hey, I'll give you this for free in exchange for a review. That's when it was very wild west, and it was extremely abused, even by me, but it was legal. Like you could do it. And then there was another point, it would have been roughly a year after that, like a year ago, when there were just a lot of these black hat review services that were being pretty effective. And the way that most of them would work is they had these networks of shoppers around the U.S. and different private groups and whatever else that buy it and leave a review. But Amazon, I would say like as of today, Amazon's gotten really, really good at detecting that stuff, it seems like. They won't let your product receive reviews at too high a velocity of what they expect. It's all machine learning type stuff to understand who's leaving reviews on what and what their average star count is and all that type of thing. It came out during when Mark Zuckerberg was in Congress talking about user privacy, that like Amazon was buying all of Facebook's data as far as who you're friends with, and they're using that to determine whether or not your friends were leaving you reviews, stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
So it goes to show like how deep they go into this, and it is really sophisticated. Even just another kind of data point on it, I was in Amazon's Seattle office, and we were up on like the 8th floor, and he just kind of casually said, he's like, yeah, the 6 floors below me, they all work on reviewer fraud. So it's probably like 1,000 people that's all they do is work on review fraud on Amazon. So it's like, all right, I mean, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it almost, as you describe that, it almost seems like a catch-22. It's like if you want to be successful and move a lot of products on Amazon, you got to have really good reviews, and I assume a lot of them. But you're not going to be able to get a lot of reviews quickly just because the algorithm doesn't allow for you to kind of grow that rapidly. So is it just the expectations are going to be a little bit longer time frame to make money on Amazon, or are there any overnight success stories on Amazon still that are, like legit white hat strategies?
I think they're less common, but actually about 2 months ago, Amazon released their Vine program to third-party Amazon sellers. So first-party Amazon vendors have had access to this for a long time, but they just released it to Amazon or third-party Amazon sellers. And it's pretty cool because it's their reviewer network. They like certify these people to be Vine reviewers after they've shown a history of, I guess, accurately or fairly reviewing products. And now you can actually give away 25 free units to their Vine club. And from that, you usually get about 24 or 25 reviews. And you can actually do that just like your first week. So up until like 2 months ago, it was really hard to get those first dozen or a couple dozen sales. But with the release of this program, they've made it a lot easier.
Yeah. I'm going to switch conversations a little bit. Do you get into like the fulfillment side of things? Like, can you be successful off of Amazon or fulfilled by Amazon, or does everything need to be going through their warehouses as well?
You pretty much have to offer Prime. You are able to offer seller fulfilled Prime, but for most people, it's not really practical because one, you have to pay for the shipping costs yourself, which are usually still a net increase from what you'd be paying the Amazon pick, pack, and storage fees. And then two, you still have to deliver it within 2 days. So if you're like in Kentucky, like there's probably quite a few states that you could deliver to through like UPS Ground or Priority Mail. But if you're kind of in one of the corners, then there's probably only a few states you could really cost effectively deliver in 2 days to. So the result of that is like it's pretty limiting for most people. So all that was a long way of saying that you pretty much have to be using FBA.
Yeah, you take a lot of risk off your shoulders as well.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of like people who have like very unique type of products, I had a guy, a friend of mine who was selling yarn like by the foot. So they just had to they had these giant spools of yarn and you just have to pull it, and it's just not something that Amazon would have been able to do.
Right.
So, kind of unique situations like that, are where the opportunities may be off of Amazon to be able to find your customers there. Let's kind of segue again. You've grown dramatically over the past 5-7 years, right? When did you guys launch?
A little over 5 years ago.
Okay, 5 years ago. And your team's up to, I think last we talked was 30 or 40? Where are you at?
So there's about 40 people in Austin, but worldwide we have about 150 people.
Okay. Wait. Look at this guy. 150 people. You talked about it being worldwide. I also want to kind of talk about growing a team, building a business, and the lessons learned from that. In today's environment, you kind of need to consider working remote as an option. What are some of your best practices for that? And tell me a little bit more about your organizational structure.
Yeah, so it helps to know a little bit more about the founding of the company. My wife and I, when I founded Jungle Scout, we were living the digital nomad life. So we'd sold our house, we'd sold all our stuff, literally everything we owned fit in a carry-on suitcase, and we were just traveling around the world. We lived in an Airbnb for a month, then we moved to a different city. So we did that for about 3 years, and over the course of 3 years, moved around to 35 different countries or something. And that was a really awesome experience, but part of that, why I tell you this backstory, is it was founded completely remote. So those first 3 years, I think maybe the team got up to around 30 or 40 people. So the first 30 or 40 people were working fully remote. We had no offices, and that kind of built how a lot of our management stuff works, or even project management, communication. So all of that was built on this remote foundation. Fast forward to today, we have, so headquarters is here in Austin. So we have our whole executive team here in Austin with the exception of our VP of engineering. We have an office in Vancouver that's primarily developers and our UX designers. And then we opened up an office in Shenzhen in China a year and a half ago. And it's primarily marketing and customer support people specifically for that region. So that office would only focus on our Chinese customers.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about, serving those customers as well. You said they make up 50% of the market. And I don't know why I didn't even think about serving them and building an office for them. How big's your executive team? And how's that structure built up? Are you big fans of EOS or any kind of blueprints that you guys are following?
Yeah, so the executive team, we have a GM of China. We have our VP of People Operations, VP of Finance, Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Product Officer, and then VP of Engineering. So all those individuals would report directly to me. And then depending on the size of their orgs, there's different levels of management underneath there. The bigger orgs would be engineering and marketing. So they would have a level of directors underneath of them and so on. So yeah, it gives you a little bit of insight.
Yeah. Are you meeting with these guys weekly, or how do you manage? I mean, I'm just trying to imagine Beard Brand being 10x its current size, and how I can just have a pulse on everything, know what's going on, and making sure that the brand is maintaining the standards that you've set up to that point.
Yeah, I do meet with them all weekly. So on Monday, we actually have a 2-hour meeting with the whole executive team, and then I have one-on-ones with each of these people throughout the week. What I've learned is once you start hiring, so this was all brand new to me. So before Jungle Scout, I still don't have any idea what I'm doing, but I definitely didn't have any idea what I was doing then. And I've never run a company before. This is the first larger, at least size company I've ever had. So what I kind of learned is if you're going to hire kind of a true executive level type person, is they're going to expect and need a certain level of autonomy. So they're going to want to be managed. And the best way to do it is to manage, set expectations, set metrics, and then kind of manage them to those metrics. That being said, that is easier said than done, right? Easy for me to say that. You brought up a really good point about what you expect the brand to be and little things like that. I still find myself probably getting in the weeds a little bit too deeply with, I'll read an article and just be I don't really want us to say this few sentences or this paragraph or whatever. So I'm talking about some things that are pretty deep into the weeds. something that I still need to definitely work on is just like try to set those expectations up front. So it's like try to set better expectations of voice of the brand as opposed to just pinging them and saying like, hey, can you change these 2 sentences?
Yeah. When I think about like my ideal way to build a business, to me, it's like I have like a number 2 who's kind of like, I think in some circles they call it an integrator or a COO or operations person. And I just like brain dump all my thoughts to that one person, and they'll filter out like the 99 ideas that are complete trash or are going to like piss people off or demotivate people, and then like filter them through and take them onto the team and hold the team accountable, because me personally, I'm a little too ADD to like stay focused enough to be like, okay, what's your metric today and this and that, and I don't know, I kind of glaze over. I'm like, what are we talking about now? Like,
Right.
Are you more of an ideas guy, or are you more of an integrator at heart?
No, like most entrepreneurs, I'm more of an ideas guy. Also like ADD, catch me daydreaming a lot. I'm definitely not the type of person that's great at just like hunkering down and grinding through lots of boring work by any means. So I guess for me, I'm still able to kind of have those conversations, like once weekly, like touch base as far as those things go. I think the method you just described would be pretty popular, or what like a lot of entrepreneurs desire, because most of them are more of the ideas person and like kind of the risk taker and a little bit of a dreamer, things like that. And then I think that it's also pretty hard to just kind of hire that like one COO type person and have them be able to execute it really well, because as we all know, like growing businesses is hard.
Yeah.
But I think the setup you described would be ideal for most people, and then in reality, I think it's, for a lot of people at least, or for most businesses that I see, it's pretty tough.
Yeah. I mean, your team's pretty big. You didn't mention having like that number 2 or COO. So you said you have what, 5 reports or 6 reports?
I think it'd be 6.
6 reports. So I would imagine it's a little bit flatter. Do you have any kind of like, I mean, for lack of better words, just like drama between executive team and like egos and personalities? Because I would imagine that at a higher level, you get people who are very successful and driven and kind of like the type A personalities, where maybe there's going to be more conflict than ordinary kind of, task-oriented roles.
Right. So right now I have a really good executive team, but that hasn't always been the case. I would say, over the past just 2 years, 3 executives are no longer on the team. And there's different things for different reasons, but part of it always comes down to a little bit of like the conflict and like the culture fit. And it is really hard to find executives for the team that have a low ego and can perform the way you want. And so, yeah, it's really challenging. I mean, just to give you an idea, for all the executives, we would do over 100 first-round interviews before hiring one.
100 first-round interviews of individuals and candidates?
Yeah, over 100 individual candidates.
Yeah. That's a lot of time. And like, that's what, half an hour per...
Yeah, exactly.
So, we talked a little bit about this at the White Line Expo conference, your hiring process. You're a big believer of executive recruiters and utilizing that structure to find your executives. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'm actually a huge fan of just recruiters in general, and I'll tell you why. So the first probably 30, until the team got to about 30 people, I don't think we didn't have a recruiter. So whoever was the manager of that person would be essentially the recruiter, and it was up to them to do the interviews and kind of work out the whole process. And what I realized was I think people would start to kind of settle on particular candidates because it's exhausting to like do more outreach or like go through more resumes or whatever, like, just try to find more people. I think most people kind of feel like, man, I'm pretty drained. This person isn't a 10 out of 10, but at the same time, I don't want to go back to square one and spend all my time doing that again. So I think the result of that is hiring people who are less than kind of perfect. And then we hired our first recruiter. And then all of a sudden, she was really good at sourcing candidates. It was all outbound. So it's usually the best kind of leads because they already have jobs. They're not really looking for new jobs. And then the other thing was, our quality standards, I think, went up because you can always just say no to as many candidates as you want, and she'll just bring you new candidates. And like all of them are like pretty good. So it's like, no, 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 no. Okay, like this person going to second round type of thing. Whereas otherwise, maybe you would have settled a little bit earlier. So like everyone knows they'll have an endless pipeline of candidates. So, turn down anyone who's not perfect. So that in general is why I'm a huge fan of recruiters. Some of the executives we specifically hired executive recruiters for, there are individuals that are good in particular areas. An example is we hired a marketing specialist to find our CMO, and they knew a whole bunch of CMOs, and they're really familiar with the industry. So the result of that is like for that particular position, they were best at it. But most of the time, our in-house recruiters do the recruiting.
Okay. Yeah. Again, 100 candidates you're actually interviewing, or you're just looking at their resumes for?
We would actually be speaking. It's usually the recruiter, sometimes someone else, but we would actually be doing a live interview for 30 minutes with each of them.
Okay. And my thoughts on that, 100 people, half an hour, that's what, 50 hours then? 50 hours of time. So like how long is this hiring process taking? And do you ever have concerns about losing out on candidates for it taking too long?
No, I guess it's taken us about 2 to 3 months typically to hire an executive. Lower level positions are quite a bit faster than that. If that's the person's main focus, first round probably spreads over 2 to 4 weeks, for the 50 hours. That seems pretty reasonable. And I think the timeline of 2 to 3, 4 months for executives is pretty realistic. That's what most other people have told me as well. So no, I don't really worry about losing out.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's nice to have someone full time working on that. At what size business did you realize that was a requirement in-house to handle the hiring process?
As far as when I thought it was good to get the recruiter?
No, I would say like when you started building out your team internally to kind of support the hiring of the team.
Yeah, we hired our recruiter when we were about 30 people. If I were to do it all over again, I'd probably actually have one role that was kind of like a HR coordinator and recruiter once we got to like 10 or 15 people. Instead, I really waited too long on a lot of those like kind of more back office type roles. And yeah, for that particular one, it was like 30 people on the team.
Yeah. And you saw the growth coming, like you knew the need to hire and kind of like the projections are there. I mean, that's always like the scary thing, like hiring too soon, you get bloated and slow, hiring too late and everyone's burnt out and stressed out.
Yeah, it's a really difficult balance, right? I don't know if we did it perfect by any means. We probably actually waited a little long to hire because there was a certain point when we were 30 people that the business was continuing to grow month over month. We were very profitable at that time. So like that showed me we probably should have hired a little bit sooner during that time. But man, it's so hard to know. I don't know that, like it's... now we try to do like financial projections for like the year. They're asking me like, okay, how many people do you think you're going to hire in the second half of this year? Back in like November, I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, ask me again this summer.
Has this growth like just been totally organic, or are you guys pumping out a lot of Facebook ads? Like, how are you bringing awareness to your brand? Or is it just, the Eric Bandholz podcast show on?
Mostly this podcast. If we look at our customer acquisition, about 40% comes organic on Google. I think 20 to 30% through performance marketing, and then the remainder through social, affiliate, some of those.
You say organic. I mean, are they searching for brand, or is it like, Amazon analytics tool that you're converting these people?
The latter one. They'd be searching for how to sell on Amazon, or how to set up a Seller Central account, or even how to split test my Amazon listings or whatever like that. So we've been putting out quite a bit of content we've always been putting out quite a bit of content. I like to think it's also pretty high quality. I think Google agrees with most of that because we have a lot of in the SERPs, we're highly ranked for a lot of stuff. So that drives a lot of traffic.
Touch base real quickly on your content strategy. How are you finding the content to talk about? How are you formulating your articles? Are you integrating video into it? And then how are you capturing the leads for that, or driving them to give them your email address?
Yeah, so I would say there's kind of like 3 pillars to our content strategy. One is, I would say it's keyword targeted articles. So we'll do keyword research, find keywords that get pretty high search volume, but we're not ranking well for, and we'll specifically try to create an article like just for that keyword, and the goal is just to rank well for it. There's another type of content that is, it's like what I think or what we think a customer would expect if they were just going to Jungle Scout and like trying to learn things about Amazon. So this isn't necessarily, maybe we're already ranking really well for this keyword, or we're, for whatever reason, we just want to create a piece of content that people will come back to our site. They'll continue to like come back and look for or find because they know we just have like high quality information about how to sell on Amazon. And then the third is more of like the data driven or almost like white paper style content. And this is good for like thought leadership, but it's also really good for getting press and backlinks for, because everyone loves to write about Amazon and we have like lots of really good data around it. So an example is, just around kind of like coronavirus type stuff. We published a bunch of data of how that's affecting Amazon, what's selling well as a result, what's hurting, overall how that performance is going, and something like that. It got picked up by dozens of publications, like including New York Times and Wired and a bunch of the big ones everyone knows of.
Do you have goals to get out an article a day, or how much quantity are you guys shooting for?
It's actually about an article a day, like 3 to 5. We have 3 writers, and each week we publish about 3 to 5 articles.
Okay. And those articles are about 1,000 words or 3,000 words, or how in depth will they go?
Most of them are more long form, so 2,000, 3,000, 4,000.
Yeah, that's pretty good insight. Well, anything else that our listeners should do? Should they follow you on Twitter, or is that your jam? Or
you can find me posting a little bit on Instagram.
What's your Instagram handle?
G_Mercer.
G_Mercer.
Yeah.
Look at some family photos, or
check out some family photos. Maybe what I'm doing over the weekend. Who knows? Maybe a picture of me on a laptop on a beach.
Still living that digital nomad coconut cowboy lifestyle.
You won't find too many of those. Maybe if you go back into history.
Yeah. Well, man, this has been awesome. I love picking your brain of someone who's been through there and built such an amazing company and helped so many people also find success and build their lives and careers using your tools to improve their business. Thanks for coming on the show. This has been another Building an E-Commerce Business for Practical E-Commerce. Cheers, and keep on growing.